The original Halloween from 1978 is without a doubt one of the best horror movies in history, responsible for creating most of the horror movie tropes we have today. Tropes that in the moment Halloween was released were original ideas and were so effective in creating tension and fear that almost every horror movie after it would use those techniques, imitating them until they became tropes of the horror slasher genre. And, just like many successful horror films of the time, Halloween became its own franchise, spawning 11 films that created new narratives and added new characters with the motive of growing the lore of the franchise, and especially to give Michael Myers reasons to come back. Through these films, Laurie Strode was established as the younger sister of Michael Myers. And then, it turned out that Michael had a niece with who he had a psychic connection with. And so, Michael Myers' whole motive of killing and existing was to completely obliterate his family line. Now, this goes against what John Carpenter's intentions were for Michael Myers. This is why through the movies, Michael is called the Shape or the Boogeyman. John Carpenter wanted Michael to simply be the representation of evil. No reason, no rhythm to his actions. Michael killed just because he was evil itself. Fast forward many decades, John Carpenter decided to go back to the Halloween franchise and create the true and final trilogy, establishing that every single movie that came after the first one was illegitimate and had nothing to do with the real lore of the franchise. Well, the last movie of said trilogy is out, and I watched it, and I have mixed feelings. Halloween 2018 picks up 40 years after the initial attack of Michael Myers in the 70s. We see that the events of that horrible night had marked Laurie Strode forever, and she had lived her entire life preparing for Michael's comeback. And finally, after breaking out from the mental institution he was in, Michael Myers does come back indeed. In this movie, we touch on something very real and very tangible, and that is how an attack like the one Laurie survived can affect someone mentally forever. How someone cannot just move on, and how said trauma can practically destroy your entire life, just like we see in the movie with Laurie. Laurie's relationship with her daughter is basically in shambles thanks to her obsession with Michael, and still, she cannot seem to let go of him until she makes sure he is dead. Our main character has a motive to face this beast of a man and get herself in danger's way. This time around, she is not running, but she is ready to fight. It's been 40 years since Michael first attacked, giving the town enough time to forget who he is, or at least believe that they will never be in his way again. People are so unaware of Michael's existence that he is walking among civilians and no one is paying attention to him. This creates some great tension, the sense that you never know when a psycho you should be very afraid of is standing right there among children, some of the most vulnerable targets. And then, that's when Michael strikes again, and no one wants to listen to Laurie because she has been so paranoid her entire life. People are used to her being like that, so now they are not taking her seriously. Another thing that I thought was very good about this movie was how creative some of the shots were. Once Michael is officially back in town, his first kill is a woman alone in her house. And then we hear a baby cry as Michael grabs a knife. He follows the cries, taking us to a room with a crib. For a moment, the movie had me believe we were going to cross that threshold and Michael was going to unalive an actual baby. But that's not the case, and so we continue to follow him, and it has us wondering, who will be next? And as Michael chooses his next victim, he leans down on a window. We see his reflection on the window lighted up by the jack-o'-lanterns. Michael decided to move, but we don't. We stay with the unknown victim as we see Michael descending from the side. Once the victim decides to look out the window, it's too late for her. Michael comes in from the back and unalives her. This traveling shot of us following Michael was my favorite from the whole movie, and it gave me so much nostalgia. It made me feel like I was watching a movie from the time the original one came out. It has that look and feel to it, and it could be seen that the people behind the camera were trying to make the movie interesting. The showdown of Laurie against Michael in this movie is also a great highlight. The whole movie comes down to the moment these two finally come face to face again, this time around on some balanced ground. Laurie has prepared her house and herself for that night. So, while Michael has the monster strength on his side, Laurie knows the ground and all the traps that she has set into place. This fight culminates with 3 generations of women facing Michael and apparently defeating the boogeyman that had haunted their lives. His nightmarish presence has affected the 3 of them. Again, talking about how much a traumatic event can permeate someone's entire life. In my opinion, Halloween 2018 is a great sequel for the original Halloween movie. This movie has a purpose, which is fighting off the demon in Laurie's life. There is a believable story with Laurie as her main character. She has an inner and outer issue to deal with. You have the main plot of the movie, which is fighting Michael Myers, and then the other that is the family issues at hand. When I went to watch this movie, I went with my boyfriend, and I remember he said he was very pleased because he had gotten what he had expected from a Halloween movie, and I agree with that statement. At the end of Halloween 2018, Laurie comes out victorious, her plan working like she wanted. Or so she hoped. Halloween Kills starts right after Laurie, Karen, and Allison face Michael Myers and track him in the basement, setting the house on fire. However, for their bad luck, in this town the firefighters are faster than lightning, and they are at the scene turning off the house before the structure is even really damaged. The house is practically still standing by the time the firefighters are there. It takes Michael Myers 3 seconds to eradicate a whole team of firefighters and continue with his killing spree. Because that's all that he does in this movie. He just kills. Everyone. It's Halloween Kills, after all. In this movie, the entire town is now aware again of Michael, and the familiar faces that were around for the first attack are ready to fight back. And so, everyone in town starts preparing to do everything they need to finally bring down the monster who has casted a shadow yet again over them. Now, before I go into my critique, I need to say that there is one thing that I like about this movie very much, and that is, without a doubt, the collective panic theme. Basically, the entire town is in high alert. They fear for their lives, the lives of their loved ones, and their desperation of no one being able to do anything evolves into violent actions. They want Michael Myers dead, even if they have to do it by their own hands. And among this panic, what happens? Well, when another of the mental hospital patients come into the hospital where the entire town seems to be at, afraid, hurt, and asking for help, the entire place decides he is Michael Myers and they go after him, ending up in the man going out of this world by his own means. There have been cases like that in the real world, so I found that it was a really good narrative choice. And as for Laurie, in this movie she is basically out of the picture since she is in the hospital, understandably, so she cannot guide anyone. And as I said before, the town have decided to take the matter into their own hands. And what happens? Well, a bunch of people just gets unnecessarily killed since no one is really ready to face Michael. As the night goes on and more people are getting killed by this one man, it comes down to Karen, Laurie's daughter, to bring Michael to what it is supposed to be his final moments at the hands of the people his presence has terrorized so much. But plot twist, it doesn't. Michael kills all of them, including Karen, and he disappears into the night yet again. Outside of the kills being somehow creative now and then, I don't think there's really something that stuck with me about this movie. I think the storyline was okay. It was cool to see the whole town wanting to take down Michael Myers for once, instead of Michael Myers existing like an individual case where just the police and the affected people knew about him. The entire town finding out and demanding something be done about Michael Myers sounds much more realistic, and I think that in concept, Halloween Kills was saved, but really that's just it for me. And here comes my main problem with this trilogy, and I need to talk about it before we move on to the third installment. The plot of Halloween Kills is not bad for a Halloween movie. I actually like that the end of Michael Myers would come at the hands of the entire town, because at the end of the day, it is the entire town who has suffered the consequences of his existence. And that's my main problem. Halloween Kills had the perfect plot to end the franchise there. This was the end of just how far you could stretch the plot of Mr. M&M coming back to town and killing people. However, Hollywood has a thing for trilogies, and we cannot do anything without turning it into a trilogy. And Halloween was another victim of this. In this third installment, we do not follow Michael Myers nor Laurie Strode, but Corey, a 21-year-old who tragically and by accident ends up unaliving the kid he was babysitting as a result of a prank the little kid was playing on Corey. Despite it being an accident caused by the kid, that is, and Corey being released by the police once it was proven it was an accident, Corey is still seen as a psychopath who killed a kid, which has led to him being ostracized and even bullied by the town. The threat of abuse and bullying Corey suffers through many years eventually pushes him not only into the hands of Michael Myers, who sets Corey free for one reason or another, but to become an actual serial killer himself. Most of the deaths that happen in this movie are at the hands of Corey, not Michael. You see, after taking a beating from 15 different people at the same time, Michael Myers has retrieved to the sewers, becoming a less active Pennywise by now and then killing whoever is unfortunate enough to get close to the sewers and eating rats. The once oh so forever strong Michael Myers who got shot, hit, slammed, beheaded, you name it, and still come back, now is too weak to continue. And that's when Michael Myers encounters Corey, and as the two of them become a killing duo, Michael kind of recovers his strength and goes back to action, to then have his mask stolen by Corey. And so, like I mentioned before, it is Corey who kills the most people in this movie. And this is what I meant when I said that the story with Michael Myers couldn't be stretched outside of Halloween Kills. Even the screenwriters knew that, because they decided to introduce a new character in the third movie to take the spotlight to give Halloween Ends a storyline outside of Michael is killing again and he and Laurie are going to face each other. Again, I think it would have worked better if Corey was introduced in the first movie. Maybe Allison and him knowing each other from school or something like that. He could have had a story arc where all the violence Michael created and then the violence he endured push him into becoming a serial killer himself, with Allison being the only person who was nice to him, and not only that, the two of them kind of falling for each other. So, Corey doing everything, including killing, just to make Allison happy would have made much more sense then. In Halloween Kills, the kid dying was an accident, and then when Corey killed the old crazy man outside of the sewers was in self-defense, so I don't know why he thinks he is like Michael Myers or why he becomes so evil after looking into Michael's eyes. Michael Myers killed his sister cold-blooded when he was a kid, meaning that evil was always in him. With Corey, it's not like that, but he suddenly decides to become a cold-blooded killer too, I guess. Another thing in Halloween Ends that bugged me was the romance between Corey and Allison, because it felt a bit abrupt and it's never explained or show why Allison was so quick to fall for Corey like that. From Corey, I can understand it. He is a guy who had received nothing but rejection, so having a cute girl being kind and nice to him made it easier for him to fall for her. But the moment Corey arrives at the hospital, Allison is looking at him almost like she knows him. She even invites him on a date right on the spot. All of that was kind of abrupt in my opinion, especially since Allison had everyone in her life, including her boyfriend, killed a couple years back. You think she would be much more cautious opening to people. Another thing this movie does that surprised me, since John Carpenter is involved in some way, is that Michael Myers lets Corey leave and even becomes his accomplice. At some point, Corey faces Michael and Corey wins, taking his mask and running away with it. This simply goes against the lore of Michael Myers. Michael Myers have been beaten down and shot, and he would always stand up with full force. And now a youngster in his early 20s manages to win a fight against him, and not even that, but take his mask. That one mask that Michael Myers brutally killed the two reporters with his bare hands in Halloween 2018 to get back? That mask? I get Michael Myers might be weak after everything that happened in Halloween Kills, but in that movie, he called a whole mob of people and walked away. Why is he suddenly that hurt? It has been years and now he is too weak to continue? One of the reasons why John Carpenter was so unhappy with the Halloween sequels was because they insisted on giving Michael Myers human traits, like a sister and a niece, and then Rob Zombie decided to give Michael Myers mommy issues. Michael Myers was originally called the Shape or the Boogeyman. He is supposed to represent the dark shape of evil, no feelings, no reasons. And in this movie, we go back again on giving Michael Myers this human trait where he sees himself in Corey, so he lets him live, and he can no longer continue killing because he is too old and hurt. Also, this movie is so anticlimactic that even the final face-off between Laurie and Michael is incredibly stale. They go against each other in a small kitchen till the whole town comes to pick up the body and chop it to pieces. Their face-off in Halloween 2018 was much more intense and provoking. It took the last 20 minutes of the movie, it had so much movement and suspense, and it felt like it was the duel these two characters deserved. The last scene of Laurie watching Michael Myers being decimated should have been the end of Halloween Kills, and they should have left it at that. After Karen lures Michael into a trap where the whole town takes turns to beat him up, they should have taken him there and then to the wood chipper thingy or whatever he's thrown into. Halloween Ends has one interesting plotline, and that is Corey's story, which is hindered thanks to how much it ruins Michael's legacy as a character. But I think that could have been a movie of its own. I saw people guessing that the new Laurie Strode and Michael Myers are going to become Allison versus Corey. There used to be this rule with the Halloween franchise where the writers couldn't kill Michael, they had to end him, in a way that it could be justified how he survived at the start of the next movie. So there's this rumor that we see Corey laying dead, but there's nothing said about him after, meaning that maybe there is going to be Halloween, a new generation. And it's Corey going after Allison because he's obsessed with her, and Halloween Ends was just Corey's villain origin story. I'm honestly hoping that's not the case because I see that story also going only for one movie. Sometimes we need to admit when a story has given all it can give, and I think that Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills did a decent job at that. Halloween 2018 more than Halloween Kills, but both were satisfying enough to conclude the story. I genuinely see Halloween Ends as a forced try to make a trilogy because we love the number 3 in this place, because it has no relevant plotline that doesn't feel repetitive. At least Jamie Lee Curtis has promised she won't make more Halloween movies, and in this timeline, Michael Myers was finally taken out for good with no chance to come back, unless he finds a way to sew himself together from the afterlife. So I'm hoping we finally see this franchise go to rest. That is, until another 30 years go by and they decide to make a reboot of the original movie and create a whole new timeline.